Yipee-Ki-Yay, Mr. Falcon.
Hello, Thomas.
Hello, David.
It's good to see you again.
Yeah, man. It's a pleasure as always.
So, we're talking about movies that have left a mark, and not a good mark usually. And people of our generation have the unique distinction of being brought up in a time when they made really fucked up, weird movies that weren't always labeled as such. like now you can, I mean, not only is everything labeled with some kind of rating, you can go on a website and find out if the dog dies in a given movie, for God's sake, right? Let alone everything else. Back then, they would bury horrifying little subplots in like family films, films made for tweens or even children. There were always like these dark underbelly aspects to things, and I think looking back that it made things richer. Made for more interesting stories, but some of it fucked us up. And then there was this whole pantheon of movies that they made that we just shouldn't have watched at a young age and did. And they fucked us up too.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about some of the ones that fucked us up the most.
Yeah.
Yeah? Do you agree?
I agree. I agreed that there's like a couple of buckets. You know how I love buckets.
You and your fucking buckets. I love it.
There's the bucket where like this is clearly a movie that was not meant for me as a young person, but I watched it anyway. Yeah. And then there are the ones that were meant for me as a young person, and it's like, why is that in this movie? Are you trying to ruin my life?
Do you ever watch a movie through like the doorway from another room that you weren't supposed to be watching when your parents were watching it?
Totally. We grew up in a small house. Yeah. And so, it was not hard to get an angle on the TV when there's just like 2 rooms on the first floor.
You had a rough, like, it wasn't open floor plan, but you didn't have doors and shit in your house.
On the first floor? No.
Yeah, you just had the staircase was kind of in the middle of the house, and then everything wrapped around it.
Yeah, so you could
heard
like
everything. In the kitchen.
Creep down the stairs and like poke your head around the corner, and boom, you're looking at the TV.
Oh yeah, you could. That's right. Wow.
Yeah, I did that more than once.
Sure, that's perfect for it. Yeah. That's funny. Yeah, I have vivid memories of doing that, like from the kitchen in my house, peeking like catty corner through the doorway.
Yeah.
Because the TV used to be up against the wall for that, and it was perfect. And you had young ears, so you could hear, but you didn't really usually have to hear. Yeah. That and watching scrambled cable TV, and you could still get the sound. You know, you could hear what was going on.
I mean, usually, for me, it was like my parents were watching something that was just not for kids. You know, it wasn't like Scramble Channel, but they were just watching an action movie with swear words, and then I would like try to come down the stairs, and sometimes they'd be like, "What are you doing? Get back up to bed." But every now and then, it's like I'd get to watch like 15 minutes of a movie,
some kind of Michael Douglas movie or something, right?
Yeah, who knows?
I used to. This is funny. If you remember the Scrambled, the way it looked, we watched. My dad and I watched the Evander Holyfield Mike Tyson fight, where where Tyson bit his ear on Scrambled pay-per-view. Because you could hear it. You had the audio. You could hear it. It was like listening to a fight on the radio, kind of. And I'll never forget being in our living room and hearing the announcers go, "Tyson it appears he has bitten Holyfield's ear. There's blood. Oh yeah, he bit a piece off of his ear," and we couldn't see it. they're describing. We're like, "What the fuck?" And we had to wait till the next day to actually see the footage of it on the news.
That was wild. Absolutely wild.
We heard that shit live, son.
We heard it live.
On TV. In green and yellow squiggles. It was great.
That's awesome.
That didn't scar me. I was old enough by then. But
it scarred Holyfield.
It sure as fuck did, man. You're gonna bite Jake Paul's head off. That shit's coming up when we're recording this.
God.
Fucking fiasco that boxing has become.
Yeah.
Anyway, so what would you say? What film has had the most negative impact on your young mind? What?
Oh man.
Was it something that gave you nightmares, or what? What was it?
There were two movies I saw. One of which that had like an immediate impact that like scared me. When I saw it, it freaked me the fuck out. I was like, oh God, why did I watch that? And then there's another one that the more I think about it, the more like it still has consequences today in my life as an adult.
Oh shit!
So, yeah, and
some
it's dumb.
Some heavy stuff, Troop.
It's dumb, but it's there, you know.
No, yeah.
I can point to it. It's like the first one that I saw that really screwed me up when I was a kid was The Gate. You remember that old horror movie, The Gate?
Is that the one with the kids in the backyard?
Yes.
Oh, the gate to hell.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Yeah, dude, that one was wild.
Oh, there was a couple parts to that and a couple images that are like forever burned in my brain. And like it starts out with that one. There's like Steven Dorff is like a little baby in that movie. He's like 8 years old.
Yes.
And he's got this friend, this nerdy
with the glasses, right? Who's into like heavy metal.
Yeah, and he gets a heavy metal record, and he starts doing that backmasking thing where you like spin it backwards, and it's
it was firmly right in the middle of the satanic panic shit in the 80s.
Yep.
Yeah, it was perfect for this.
So
he plays it backwards, right?
And it plays some like incantation, and they find this like pit in their backyard that shows up, and in the incantation it says something about a sacrifice in the pit will open the gate. And in the beginning of the movie, their dog dies, and this one guy is like trying to he doesn't know what to do. The parents are away, and this friend of one of the older sisters, like her boyfriend or something, he's got to get rid of the dog. He doesn't know what to do. He puts it in the pit in the backyard, and that winds up functioning as the sacrifice to open the gate. And then just shit goes crazy after that. All this weird stuff starts happening. These little creatures start coming out. And
it's like stop motion, right?
Yeah, they were like little claymation, like gremlin-looking things.
There was that spate in the 80s where they were doing all kinds of little and big monsters like that. And sometimes it worked. Sometimes it could be really creepy. Just the way they moved. It's disjointed.
Yeah, man.
You know, it's off.
And all that's scary, but the thing that I remember forever is it's more than just monsters coming out. It's like whatever evil force is coming out of this pit and the gate is starting to like have an influence on like the world and like take things over. And at one point, Steven Dorff looks down his hand, and there's an eyeball.
I remember that
in the palm of his hand.
Oh, I remember that, dude.
Yeah, you remember what he did?
He stabs it, doesn't he?
Yeah, with a piece of glass, broken glass from a mirror.
Oh, God, I remember that.
Yeah,
you're right. That scared the shit out of me.
Did you just feel a little chill go down your spine?
I'm clenching my hand. No, because I fucking remember that. Wow, I didn't remember that was from that movie, but I remember that.
That's the one.
I haven't seen that in a long, long time. Ooh, yeah, that brings,
Yeah, so that times, but like there was a bunch of scenes like that, and then, oh man, then there's the one, and like it freaked me out when I was a kid, and as I got older, my sisters and I used to just like quote this line. We would just when we were feeling goofy, we would do it. Like there's a knock at the door, and the kids run down, and the parents are home, and they're like, "Oh, thank God, Mom and Dad, you're home." But then like the dad reaches down and grabs Steven Dorff by the head, and then picks him up and lifts him off the ground by his head. And as he's doing so, he says in this like demonic modulated voice, he just goes, "You've been bad." And he goes,
"Is that how it ends?"
And he grabs the dad's face, and like it just crushes, and goo starts like pouring out of like the hole he's made in his father's face. You know, and when you're a kid, you're like, oh my God, that's horrifying. So, of course, my sisters and I, years later, would grab each other by the face and start going, you've been bad.
And this wasn't a hardcore horror movie, if I remember. Like, this was...
It was kind of aimed at young people.
Yeah, yeah. Like, because you're relating to the kid. The kid is the hero, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So that reminds me of that Invaders from Mars movie from the 80s. You remember that one?
I do. That one freaked me out.
It had kind of the same vibe, and there were things in that really stuck with me. That's one of those movies that you rewatch as an adult, and you're like, why did this really bother me that much? But I think it's that whole feeling of... First of all, they kind of depict suburban life, like very, idealized, but pretty realistic of what suburban life in the 80s sort of looked like, in middle America. And then it subverts that and has this dark underbelly, this thing creeping behind the closed doors of everything. And the kids are always essentially kind of alone, like, I don't remember what it was like in the gate, but in Invaders from Mars...
Oh, those kids are alone in the gate. The parents are just away.
Like Invaders from Mars, I think he ends up having the school nurse, I think, ends up being his only ally. And, but other than that, like his parents get taken over by the aliens and they have that weird fucking worm thing in their neck. Remember? In the back of their neck?
Yeah, it's like mind control.
And, like, the mom is standing in the kitchen eating the raw meat, staring at him and shit. And they were all possessed and pod people. And then there was weird, like, monsters. The aliens actually looked like big testicles with feet.
Yeah, they were gross looking.
And they had these guns that, like, fired, what was it, copper or some shit? And that's why his coin worked.
Copper was, like, the fuel.
Okay.
That made it shoot the beam or whatever. And
yeah, they were like laser things.
He has like a penny, like a pure copper penny that.
Yeah, because he collects coins, right? Because in the beginning, his dad gives him the penny. I think it's a special one or something.
Yeah, it's like actually made out of copper.
Real, yeah. But when they were 100%, yeah. And he uses it to fire the gun. That's right. Because the army ends up showing up, right? Yeah. I remember army dudes. I remember a whole bunch of army dudes, and they actually assault the ship that's under.
Yeah,
yeah, it's like buried in the earth over the hill behind his house.
And the thing I remember about that too was like I saw the gate. I don't know how I got a hold of that movie. All I know is that I saw it with my sisters. I don't remember my parents giving me access to that movie, but they definitely watched Invasion from Mars with me because. Like for weeks after we saw it, my mom would like slowly round the corner and in that voice she would go, "Tommy, come with me over the hill. It is beautiful there." I was like, "Mom, don't do that,
dude.
You're freaking me out."
Cool. I remember there's a scene where the ship is underneath. It's like in a crater underneath dirt, and it does something where if you stand on the dirt, it can swallow you. And like a couple army guys get sucked down. And
shouldn't have stood there.
I think that's how they end up like invading it. They just like willfully go in and all stand there and get sucked down in it. But the idea of the sand swallowing you freaked me out as a kid. Because they had quicksand in all kinds of fucking movies when we were young.
Oh yeah.
You thought quicksand was everywhere and it was just going to swallow your ass and a horse.
And you would just die.
And you would disappear into the earth forever. And then you would have to like wonder what it's like to drown in dirt, semi-liquid, semi-Newtonian dirt.
Gross.
Yeah. Yeah. Apparently quicksand isn't that big of a deal. And it's rarely deep enough to swallow an entire grown human being. And
yeah, but it's a legitimate fear when you're a child.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you could still get trapped and get eaten by like a fucking wolf or something. I don't know. Lion.
Or a testicle monster.
Or a goddamn testicle monster. You don't have any goddamn copper coins. They're all zinc.
Goddamn zinc.
Yeah, those are a couple of fucked up movies. That's for sure. You know, they had the power to make movies like this that weren't violently fucked up. Like they made you remember that movie Explorers? Spielberg made it in the 80s.
No.
That's one with a baby Ethan Hawke.
Oh.
Baby Ethan Hawke and baby River Phoenix. And then a third kid actor who never went anywhere. I don't think. That's not fair. I didn't look him up.
What's that about?
It's about these kids who start getting essentially schematics beamed to them in their dreams of how to build a spaceship. It's more like a field generator. It creates a bubble, like a force field bubble around them, and they build a ship that goes within that bubble, like a scrap shit. Like it's the craziest little boy adventure movie. It kind of runs out of gas at one point, but it's still a lot of fun. And again, it's one of those movies that paints this vivid picture of suburban white middle American life, idealized 80s edition. And it's got that Spielberg touch, and there's like a lot of Star Wars references and shit that were current at the time, and really nostalgic now. But it's kind of fun. And then you find out that the aliens beaming them these instructions are essentially teenagers in a spaceship that's orbiting off Earth just by happenstance, and they just wanted friends. And that's how they did it. Then they end up going up. The these three young boys go up to the spaceship and
just hang out.
Yeah, kind of hang out for a bit with the teenagers and the teenage. It's a brother and sister, and the boy, they can only speak to them in snippets of media that they have recorded, apparently. So they talk to them like in Honeymooners dialogue and other old TV shows and shit,
It's kind of like the things in the abyss.
A little bit.
TV clips for them.
But a little more
pop culture.
Comedic. Yeah, like it's got a weird tone, and that's the thing. Like it goes from being sort of a young kid's adventure, semi-mysterious, a little creepy kind of movie, to being almost like an outright goofy-ass comedy. And I think that's what made it not real popular. Yeah, there's a tonal shift, and it gets really draggy when they get up to the space station. The spaceship, rather. But it's a lot of fun still. And if you've never seen it, it's somehow nostalgic still, even if you don't associate it with anything.
Huh.
But yeah, it's like a lot of those dark movies we saw, but really, really optimistic and a very happy ending.
That's like the opposite. It's kind of aiming for dark, but then the twist is that it's just a couple of aliens looking for a good time.
Yeah, you keep waiting for the dark twist, and it doesn't happen. Yeah. But there's also movies I know you would catch pieces of movies on TV a lot, and especially if you had cable. So you'd see chunks, you'd see like something from this point to the end, and did you go and like run into the TV guide and look up what it was?
No,
not often. And
you just had no clue what you just watched.
Yeah, a lot of times you walked away from it having no idea what it was, and it just gets lodged in your memory somewhere until you see the whole movie at some point. And to make it worse, they had a lot of these movies in the 80s that were what's the word for it? It's not episodic. Like they were vignettes, like 15 minutes,
like an anthology.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, like the Twilight Zone movie. That comes to mind. Creep Show. Cat's Eye. Nightmare, which we watched at my house.
Nightmares, yeah.
Yeah, that was wild.
You were explaining to me this exact phenomenon where like you would catch something and you wouldn't know what it was. And you're like, you ever have that? And then like as you're explaining this to me, Nightmares is on, and I'm like, oh, I've seen this. This is that thing where Emilio Estevez gets sucked into the video game. And as you're explaining this phenomenon to me, it was happening to me in real time.
Yeah, dude, you had that look on your face, too, of utter
I know what this is.
Recognition. Yeah. Yeah, that shit had been buried in your brain somewhere for a long, long time.
Yeah, I just had I saw it on TV, like you said. I came in halfway through. I was like, this is cool. I have no idea what it is. And then, like, I went to do something else, and I never found out.
Yeah, I had the same thing with that same movie, but a different part of it. The last segment of that movie is called Night of the Rat. And apparently, when I saw this in the dark, dark recesses of my childhood, it scared the living shit out of me. And it's about a very, again, idyllic suburban house, and there's a giant supernatural, I think, rat living up in the attic. And it controls all these large but sort of normal regular rats. And I don't know, man, there's just something about it. The tone of it, I watched it not too long ago with you, right? And then you dipped on me and I finished it.
All right. Well, to be fair, I dipped on you because it was like 2:00 in the morning.
It was late as shit. You had to go home. Whatever. You left me with Night of the Rat alone to
I'm
be scared.
very sorry. I didn't know until just now how much it fucked you up when you were a kid.
It's okay because this thing is like a half hour long, right? The first 20 minutes are amazing and tension building and creepy. And then they show the rat. And I guess they'd run out of fucking
stupid.
I think they'd run out of money at this point making this movie because the rat they showed in a bedroom like next to the bed, and I swear to Christ it's just a projection of a regular rat just like sized up. It's like if you photoshopped a picture of a rat, like a stock photo of a rat, and just enlarged it and put it in Times Square. But with no shadow,
funny.
Like with no shadow and a completely different lighting and grain. Like it looks so stunningly stupid and fake. I cannot believe my child
It
self.
ever scared you?
I couldn't believe it. I laughed openly. It's a shame too because they should have just never shown the whole thing and they would have been better off.
Yeah, leave it up to the imagination.
But yeah, that scared the shit out of me. That Creepshow 2. What about you? Did you see Creepshow when they came out? Or?
I loved Creepshow.
Yeah,
when I was a kid.
okay.
I didn't see Creepshow 2 until much later. I was an adult, but like the first one, like really stuck with me. And I remember, like some of the ones, were freaky, some were goofy, but the one that like really freaked me out was the episode with the crate under the stairs.
That's excellent.
It was really good.
Oh, it's still good. Yeah.
There was that like some of them are just goofy enough that you kind of can't take them seriously. Like when Stephen King is playing old Geordie Verrill, you lunkhead.
Yeah, with the grass thing growing on him or whatever.
In that situation, that scenario is scary in itself, but he's playing such a hick goofball. It's hard to take it seriously.
Yeah.
And then there's the one where the woman's father comes out of the grave because he wants his Father's Day cake, and then he like twists her head off her shoulders.
Yeah,
and
yeah. But the other one is the Leslie Nielsen one with Ted Danson.
That one's
freaky. Actually creepy. That one's pretty creepy.
I like that one a lot.
And you get I love Leslie Nielsen's totally 70s out pad that he lives in. Oh God. And the video monitors and shit, it's excellent.
It looks like where Austin Powers lives.
And the clothes he wears, like fucking epic.
The tracksuit.
Yeah,
but he plays that role real straight,
Everyone acts the shit out of that part. That one and the crate, all great acting, and that's why they sell them so hard. And yeah, the other two fall a little flat because they're goofier.
Yeah.
But, that's Stephen King, too. That's part of, it's like the schlock stuff. It's what he grew up with, too, in the movies. Like that horror schlock crap. I don't find it very amusing. I never really did. But Creepshow 2, the second one, that I had the same thing that I had with Nightmares in that I remembered a chunk of it because it freaked me the fuck out, is the raft.
Yep.
With that human-eating oil slick thing.
Yep.
Man, I'll tell you, I never really, I think about it every time I see any kind of floating dock or swimming raft with out in the middle of a cedar lake or whatever, at least a second, I think of that goddamn segment.
Well, it's funny because like that's the one thing that the one situation that seems like it actually could happen to you. Like I'm never going to be the heiress to a large fortune and have my crazed father, whom I've murdered, come back to life to claim my head for his Father's Day cake. It's too specific. I'm not going to wind up being buried up to my neck for, tempting some man's wife away from him. But, like, I definitely been on one of those rafts, just hanging out in the summer in a lake. It's a situation I've been in, and I see it on screen, and I'm like, oh, fuck that.
And growing up in Jersey, you've seen weird shit floating in the water at least once or twice.
Oh, yeah.
And not been sure what it is. And just that there's something about the idea of something like that being alive, at least enough to eat and to hunt you down and to anticipate what you're going to do, and it being a essentially sentient oil slick is terrifying somehow. Like there's no face, there's nothing. It's like the Terminator thing. You can't argue with it, you can't reason with it. It's not even an animal. Like, what is it? But it's there, and the fact that it hurts when it ate you, like, made it extra horrible. It
was like torture.
It was like the Blob. When in the 80s Blob, when it engulfed someone, it started digesting them alive. And they showed that through the gel or whatever it was.
That was another one. That movie, freaky.
But the thing about the raft, though, man, even everyone dies. Like, I'm sorry to spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen it in 40 fucking years, but everyone dies. Even the girls. Like, even the cool dude. Even the guy who you think is going to be the hero, or at least the protagonist, or the last man standing. No one is spared. And the fact, like, as a kid, it sounds weird, but as a kid then, seeing something where all of the women die is weird. It was weird. It like struck a nerve with me at that age because I hadn't seen anything like that yet. Like, James Bond movies, you're probably going to have at least one female character dying. But it's usually a not bloody, not painful death. And there's always another protagonist. It struck me weird, man. It really stuck with me. And I didn't know what the fuck it was for years. I didn't know what the fuck it was because I had caught it on TV, I think at my aunt's house on a Sunday.
Oh, yeah, like Night of the Rat.
Yeah. And I remember having nightmares about that fucking thing, dude. And the dude, remember the surfer, like the jock dude gets pulled down through the fucking hole in the raft?
Yeah.
That little hole, it like folds him up. What the fuck, man?
That was brutal.
Fucking, and just because they went for a swim out of season and were smoking some reefer.
They didn't do anything wrong. Normally, you'll see like sometimes you watch movies like that and they make a point of saying like, oh, they put themselves in this dumb situation, or you're like in the back of the theater going, don't go in the house, but they didn't do anything like that. They went to that raft that you're supposed to go and hang out on.
Yeah, that's all it was. It's a little out of season because it was cold, right? And the blonde guy's kind of a jerk off. That was the biggest crime they committed. And the touch of leaving the car right there on the beach with the door open and the radio on. Well, that was a nice touch.
Was slick.
That hurts. And it makes the ending, it just adds to the ending, which is heartbreaking, but awesome. Great ending. I think that's the last segment in that movie, too.
I don't remember.
That'll stick with me forever. Yeah. I rewatched it not too long ago, and it still irks me.
It holds up.
Yeah, man, I guess. I don't know. I'd have to have someone of youth watch it and see how goofy the oil slick looks, but I don't know. It still freaks me out.
I watched it like 2 years ago at my sister's. It holds up, man. It's creepy.
All right, good.
Well, speaking of stuff that will stick with you forever, at the beginning of this, I said there were 2 movies.
Oh yeah, that's right.
One of them like messed me up in the short term. Immediately after, one of them, like still to this day, like just informs the way that I view certain things, and it's ruined me in some ways.
All right, so the Gate was the first one.
Yeah,
so,
the Gate was the first.
So what's the long-term damage one?
Oh, I watched when I was a kid, and I think this was a Disney movie.
Uh-oh.
I don't remember if it was Disney or not, but I watched Arachnophobia.
Oh, Christ.
And like
Jeff Daniels and
John
Goodman.
John Goodman.
Tremendous.
Isn't Julian Sands in that movie?
Yeah, he's the doctor, the like spider doctor or whatever the fuck.
Yeah. So I watched, like maybe that movie's scary, maybe it's not. But whatever age I was when I saw that, I was just like the perfect age for for it to freak me out about the fact that there were spiders that could kill you. But also, like when you're a kid and like you think you know everything about everything. And like it made me think that I knew that spiders were like, no matter what they were deadly. And that to be bitten by one meant certain death. And so to this day, I see a spider. I'm like, fuck, sell the house. Like, we're moving. Just it doesn't matter how big or how small. Like, maybe there's like the tiny little like ones that are like the size of a pinhead and that like come down while you're driving. They like, I don't have that thought, but anything bigger than that, I'm like, and it's illogical. It doesn't make any sense. I'm a grown man. I know that spider won't bite me and I won't die. But I see it, and that's my first like flash. The first thought that flashes across my brain is like, "Fuck, spider bite, death, run."
So you're not the spider killer in the house?
No,
is that what you're saying?
No. To my shame, I'm not. And to be fair, my wife would be like, "Oh, it's a spider," and she'll just barehand it and throw it out. So she won't even kill it. She'll barehand it and throw it outside so it could eventually crawl back into my fucking house. You know?
See, I'm not one of those people. I'll kill the motherfucker, but my wife hates spiders. I can't say anything because I have the same thing with snakes. I fucking hate snakes. Unfortunately, I live in Jersey.
That makes more sense, though. Like
I don't know,
snakes
dude.
pose a legitimate danger, man.
I'm not poo-pooing your arachnophobia because the scene where the dude puts his foot in the slipper and it bites his toe.
Yeah, man. Like it
freaks me out. The football helmet thing is horrifying. Like they did that. That movie has such a weird tone. It's almost like the darkest of comedies possible, but I think it's definitely in the horror realm for sure, dude. There's too many scary things, especially when you're a kid. That came out in 1990. We were 7.
We were 7.
Fuck, dude. So we probably saw it in 91, maybe. So we were 8. 8 years old seeing that fucking movie, and it's the guy from Roseanne, And, I don't know. That thing, it fucked me up, too.
Dave, to this day, it happens to me once a year when I go, like when the weather changes to get cold, and I have to go put on a pair of boots that I haven't worn in a while. I have a pair of like snow boots.
Out, man.
I have a pair of snow boots that I keep in the garage. Before I put them on for the first time, I'll put something on my hand and stick my hand in the boot.
Whoa.
To make sure that there's nothing in there before I go and stick my foot in.
Fucking
Even
trauma.
though my foot has a sock on it, like I will not put my foot in that boot until I'm sure that I've cleared it for, deadly, venomous, like man-killing spiders.
The fucking lady's eating the popcorn and it comes crawling out her nose.
Oh man! And then like one of them falls out of a lampshade onto someone's hand. It just made
the whole final sequence when they're running through the house and being essentially chased by the horde of spiders is so horrifying. It
made me think that there were spiders everywhere.
Yeah.
And then here's something kind of funny. You know what I did enjoy though was Arachnophobia, the computer game. They made a computer game My dad had it. He had like a 286 computer with a big fucking floppy disk and this speaker called the Sound Source. It was like one of the first external speakers that you could get. My dad got it through work and like bought Arachnophobia, and you could run around this game as John Goodman and just fucking blast spiders to death. And so that I found cathartic. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go kill some spiders. Some computer spiders where there's no danger of me getting bitten by them.
Arachnophobia. No, that plays on so many fears, man. Like, and plus the setup is so good. Like them being from the depths of the jungle in that unexplored valley or whatever the fuck it is.
They were in like the Amazon or something.
It made me afraid of the jungle. It made me afraid of spiders. It made me afraid of John Goodman a little bit. Dude, the nest with the giant mother spider queen at the end and shit. Come on, man. It's just built for terror, dude. And there's nothing supernatural or really even sci-fi about it very much. I think
that's what made it so scary.
Yeah.
The spiders are fucking real.
Yeah.
And those spiders killed people, and ergo, and like, and not for nothing, there were days I'd go in my backyard to like take out the trash. I don't know what kind of spiders they were, but the body alone with no legs were in my backyard were like as big as my thumb. And like my dad would ask me to like take out the trash, and I'd stop dead in my tracks before almost walking through a spider web from one of these gigantic spiders. I just dropped the bag and ran back in the house and said, I can't do it. And he's like, why not? I was like, because there's a spider out there. And he's like, so what? I'm like, Dad, you don't understand. Go look at this thing. It's gonna kill me.
You know what? I had that kind of reaction as a kid to something else that I watched that stuck with me for a very, very long time. The original It miniseries, the Stephen King's It.
Oh yeah.
I know it's kind of a cliche now because obviously it's been made into a very popular series of 2 films. And people have been all like, yeah, Pennywise scared the shit out of me, but I'm one of them. My dad was a huge Stephen King fan, read all the books, so we watched it as it aired. And I guess he thought it was okay for me to watch because it was
How
like, you know.
How old were you?
Oh, dude, I don't know. When did it? Let me look it up real quick. Like, it was on a network. It was a network miniseries. 1990 again. So 7 or 8. 7 or 8, yeah.
If you watched it as it aired, yeah, you were 7 years old.
Yeah. So yeah, we would definitely watch that as it aired, and he taped it. He taped it, and I've watched it later with peeking through the cracks in my fingers. I don't know, for some grim fascination, forcing myself to watch it, but it wasn't it gave me a hatred of clowns for a long time. It made me not like clowns, of course. There's also something inherently weird about clowns, but that's a whole different thing. But it was more of the idea that it could be anywhere. It could be anything. It could be disguised as anything. It could be in the drain, in your bathroom sink, in your home, or in the sewer in your neighborhood, or it could be your neighbor. As a kid who had never thought about a concept like that before, it scared the living shit out of me. And like, I started looking at dark doorways differently, and I started to develop like OCD like rituals to initiate safe passage throughout my house, when I was a kid, especially like going the bathroom and anywhere with a drain and just dark rooms, because I live in an old house.
Did you
in an old house and
turn the light off and then dart out of the bathroom as fast as you could?
Oh no, the light switch was right on the inside of the doorway, so I had to be fully out of the goddamn bathroom before I shut the light off. And yeah, dude, I was weird about it. I was really weird about it for a very, very long time. I remember the light switch in the hallway going to my bedroom was like in the middle of the hallway. So I had to turn the light off in the hallway and there was like a good 6 feet to my door.
And you would bolt.
Yeah, dude. And it was the worst if the light wasn't already on in my room. And I just remember like the childhood equivalent of sheer panic attack. It was, and it all goes back to that fucking movie. It all goes back to that fucking, not even a movie. It was a miniseries made for fucking TV. Miniseries.
It was pretty creepy.
It's the concept, you know, and what's even more fucked up is that, and it shows what might be wrong with my brain, is that I kept going back to it because it freaked me out so much. I even read the book as a kid.
Yeah, I
read
that
it
book is weird.
I read it if I remember right, I read it during the summer between 5th and 6th grade.
What? You
Yeah.
read it?
Yeah. It took the whole summer, but
Jesus.
I read it. And that was the first time I read it.
That's too young, man.
Probably.
Definitely.
Yeah. I learned about the birds and the bees from reading The Stand.
That's definitely too young.
At like 10 or something. Because there's a very vivid, sarcastic description of just the mechanics of sex in pretty close to the beginning. I think Franny gives it, explaining how she got pregnant to her dipshit boyfriend.
Oh.
When he's like, how'd that happen? Right? And she goes, well, my ping ping and my pong pong. That's exactly how she says it.
Okay, I've never read The Stand. I
Yeah,
don't know anything about pings and pongs.
No, I'm kidding, man. She just flat out says how sex works. And I was, Father, explain.
Yeah, Dad.
Just hold the book at Dad. What the fuck, man? You got it. What is this? What is this, man? So that's how that happened. Thanks, Stephen King. I really appreciate that. I know they didn't put age restrictions or warnings on books back then. I don't think they do now either. So what do you want from me? I was reading. At least I was reading.
You were reading. Good for you, Dave.
Did you didn't see it as a kid?
I saw it, but not
It didn't hit you
when it aired.
Oh, okay. You were older.
I wasn't 7.
Yeah, good.
I definitely saw it like much later, and then I remembered virtually not. It had virtually no impact on me because of when I saw it. I was a little older. I didn't really care that much about it, and then my wife made me watch it years later, right before the new movies came out, and then I actually paid attention to it.
Yeah, it loses something as an adult.
Yeah, especially when there's a 5-minute scene of the two guys just having fun riding bikes up and down a seesaw. Some goofy.
That scene's pretty fucking goofy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And The Stand freaked me out too. I saw that when that was on TV, but it was 94.
Yeah,
so
you
I was
had
at least
way
a little
more
older.
of a relationship with Stephen King than I did.
Yeah, it's ingrained. Like I said, because my dad was so into him, we watched all the movies from that era that got made as they came out, which is probably not a good thing. But I've been reading him my whole life too, practically. His newer stuff doesn't get me very well, but I'm still working through all of the old shit that I didn't read because it's so much, man. God. But
yeah, he cranked out some novels.
Remember Silver Bullet with
No, I never saw that one.
Corey Haim and the Busey, Gary Busey. Buse is loose. The werewolf looks like a bear, a very fake stuffed bear. Beowulf. But as a kid, it was creepy, and the setup is really good. It's a shame that if the creature effects were better, I think that would have been a milestone horror werewolf movie. With the imagination of a kid seeing it, it scared the shit out of me. But now it's just too goofy to get past. Now, I wonder if they'll ever remake that. I sent you that thing they're remaking Christine, right?
Yeah. And like I had watched that recently, and I messaged you about it, and you said that movie's in desperate need of a remake.
Yeah,
remake that movie, and they did. They were
I'm not
listening.
a huge fan of the Carpenter version. It's pretty hokey in my opinion, but I've been thinking about that lately since we talked about that and saw that what King thinks could use a remake, and I think that's a good one. I think Misery could be due. You know, there's a few that I'm kind of shocked that they haven't done. The Dark Half. Do you remember that one with Timothy Hutton? Again, bringing up the old Timothy Hutton. That's one of my favorite books of his. I've read it more than once, and they did make a movie of it in the 90s with Timothy Hutton in the lead. And it was okay. Like, it was kind of good, but not really. What's his name from Cliffhanger? We were just talking about him.
Rex Lynn?
No, the guy from Mallrats.
Mallrats. The bald one?
Yeah.
The one from Masters of the
one
Universe?
From Cliffhanger, man.
Michael Rooker?
Yes. Michael Rooker. Michael Rooker's in it. In The Dark Half. He's the sheriff. He's Sheriff Pangborn.
Okay.
Yeah, he is. What do you want from me? He's in it. He's awesome.
Rooker.
Michael Rooker with hair. He had hair. His own hair. Kids, he's the guy from fucking Walking Dead. The real
Merle.
Merle, fucking Daryl's brother. Man, I haven't seen that in a long time.
He's Yondu in Guardians of the Galaxy.
That's right. That's what I guess most people would know him from. He was blue though, right?
Yes.
Blue, purple, blue.
He was great in those.
Yeah, he's got a presence.
I'm Mary Poppins, y'all.
God. All right, so here's one that's like, it's sort of universal, but so we have to touch on it a little bit. But Jaws. I mean, we were young enough when that came out that it was always out. It was always a thing, but most people our age saw it when they were a kid at some point. I know I did. It was on cable a lot. My dad liked it. It freaked me out. You know, I grew up in Jersey. We go to the shore in the summer. You know, we're ocean people. And the Jersey Shore is very much like what's depicted in that movie because it wasn't filmed that far away. So I don't know. Yeah, it freaked me out. The ending more than anything else. When Quint buys it.
Yo, that scene is nuts.
Damaged me. Yeah.
There's a similar scene that gets me when like people know that they know there's a shark, and like it's that scene where they open the beaches, and the people the people
kid
are
on
swimming,
the raft, right?
They're having a good time. No, not that. That's before they know there's a shark. That's like one of the first attacks. But like that's after that kid gets eaten. They know there's a shark. The beaches are open for 4th of July, and those two fucking kids come through with the cardboard fin. Right?
Oh, that thing.
So everyone panics, right? They come out, and while that's happening, Jaws shows up in the pond.
Yeah.
Near the
sheriff's kid.
Yeah. And that one guy, he's like, he comes up in a rowboat. He's like, hey, you guys okay? You guys need any help?
He's got the thickest accent. Oh, my God.
Yeah, it knocks him out of the boat. And there's that one scene. It doesn't even breach the water, but you see it slowly come up underneath of him.
From the side, right?
Yeah,
it's that overhead shot looking down into the water. Yeah.
Yes. And it never breaks the surface. You just see the bulk of this thing. And you hear him start screaming, and then like the leg drops through the frame,
into the bottom of the ocean, right?
Oh
yeah.
God, that part fucking unnerves me every time I see it.
That's a fucked up scene. And there's a cool little bit of trivia about that scene. So if you go, you can find it on YouTube. Kind of. There's grainy footage of it, but there was more to that scene. And you know, there's that shot of the chief's son looking all completely horror struck, and like
and it goes right by him.
Yeah, like he's going to be in a home probably for a while, like recovering. Well, originally, what was supposed to happen after the shark chomps him the first time, it was supposed to grab that dude from the boat by the other leg, I guess, and kind of swim with him on his nose, like on the shark's nose, like pushing him through the water.
Oh boy!
In front of the shark, and like he grabs the kid as he goes past him.
Oh, that's so gnarly.
Like, yeah, like he's grabbing for him, like to help, and he like just grabs onto the kid and drags him for a while, and then the shark takes him under and he lets go. And then you would see the kid's face that we see in the movie. You would see that shot. But there's like footage from some B camera that's kind of far off, like a long shot, that you can see the footage on YouTube. And if they had, I can understand why they cut it, because yeah, that would have been too gnarly. They would have had to have cut it anyway when it went before the MPAA for sure.
That's crazy.
It would have been seriously damaging.
You know, like that movie freaks me out. It freaked everybody out. You know who that movie ruined? Like forever. A friend of ours. Well, it's our friend Mike, but we don't call him Mike. We call him by his last name.
Oh, yeah, okay. Really?
To the point. Yeah, to the
That's
point
right,
where
yeah,
like
he hates sharks.
If you mention like shark or Jaws, like while he was in a pool, he would get out of the pool.
A pool?
He had a pool
in a yard?
He had a pool in his backyard. He had a pool in his
yard now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. He grew up with one. That's right.
And if you mentioned anything, like all you'd have to do is go da da, and he was out.
I didn't know it was that bad.
And he'd be coming after you, like, why the fuck would you do that?
Wow. See,
I found that out, and I did it one time, and he was out in a flash. He was out of the pool, soaking wet, and he was ready to punch me.
See, man, when you're just the right age, and something hits you just the right way,
yeah,
it can last for a really long time. It really can. I was terrified of werewolves as a young kid, because I saw American Werewolf in London and Thriller, the music video.
Yeah, Thriller was fucking gnarly.
I mean, around the same time, and I don't know, dude. Something about American Werewolf fucked me up. I think it was the whole that you don't really see the whole creature ever. It didn't look like anything else I'd ever seen. It seemed really fucking real. That transformation scene is still the best. I don't care what CG shit
incredible.
Throw up. You know it's fake, but the way it's edited and the special effects themselves are still amazing. And there's just something about the fact that they couldn't show the whole creature because it was essentially the front of a creature with animatronics as the ass. You know, that they would walk around, and you'd see the front legs of the werewolf walking around because it was on all fours. It wasn't a bipedal,
right.
You know. So that's all you'd see in frame, but then the whole ass of it's like a dude hooked up to a robot. But the fact they were limited to that and what they could show, I don't know, it made it scarier. They didn't show it for as long. Like it wasn't in frame as long as they probably wanted it to be, but as a kid, seeing it that way and seeing those practical effects, plus there was boobs, like there's something about that, like the attention, the way it grabs your attention as a pubescent kid, and then throwing blood and gore on top of it and a horrifying monster. I don't know, it rewires your brain somehow. It fucks you up.
Yeah, I could see that. Like
growing up, my folks did a really good job of insulating me from horror movies, right? Like quote unquote horror movies.
It doesn't sound like that's the case, Dave.
Like I was not allowed to watch. I know, but there were things like I wasn't allowed to watch any Nightmare on Elm Street movies or any Friday the 13th movies or anything that was like an obvious slasher movie or a straight up like horror horror movie. It was limited to classic monsters, the old Universal monsters, and then in the 90s they started, the Bram Stoker's Dracula came out and Mary Shelley's Frankenstein and all those rehashes, right? So all that was fair game, but like the gorier stuff I didn't get into till I was a teenager, and I had the agency to, and I watched fucking all of it and all the weirdest,
right,
strangest fucking. Do you remember was it Full Moon or Blue Moon? That production company made those Subspecies movies. And
Subspecies.
Yeah, you remember Subspecies?
I do. Vaguely.
Yeah. And it was a whole dark, weird corner of low budget, kind of low stakes horror movies. It was weird. It was weird, the shit that would just float around on video. They were all made in Romania. It's weird shit. But they weren't scary. They were hardly ever scary. None of those classic monster remakes were very scary in the 90s.
You want to hear something really like crazy specific?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I watched a movie when I was a kid, and after I saw it, it made me afraid of juicy fruit gum.
Juicy fruit, yellow juicy fruit. All right.
Yep. So if you remember, juicy fruit had a yellow label, but the gum wasn't yellow. It was brown, like tan.
Was it back then?
Yeah.
It was like tan? Okay.
Yeah, so I would for some reason we always had gum around. There was always juicy, and I used to chew juicy fruit, and I would chew it, and then I saw this movie, and then one day I was chewing juicy fruit gum, and I went to take it out, and the way it looked just all of a sudden shocked my brain into remembering something I'd seen in Poltergeist.
Oh shit.
You remember Poltergeist?
Yeah. I don't remember. I can't place what you're talking about, but I remember
Craig
it.
T. Nelson is the dad, coach, in Poltergeist.
Yeah.
He's drinking tequila, and he's draining this bottle of tequila, and he swallows the worm, or mezcal, or whatever it was, and then it winds up like coming back out, like he throws it up, and it's like a creature. And for some reason, in my tiny kid brain, a wad of chewed up juicy fruit gum resembled it, just closely enough resembled whatever this thing was that came out of Craig T. Nelson, that I took it out of my mouth. I was like, ah, and I threw it. Like, what the hell? Dude. And then all of a sudden I wouldn't chew juicy fruit gum after that.
That's fucking wild. And then
my mom was like, I bought you this gum. You chew this all the time. Why aren't you chewing it? And I was like, oh no, I don't like it. No reason. Wow. And I didn't want to tell her how much I was freaked out by this movie.
Yeah, how do you explain that? Yeah, how do you explain that?
Yeah, it sounded insane, but also I didn't want them to not let me watch scary movies anymore.
Yeah. No, I remember that as a kid, noticing all kinds of things look like stuff that freaked me out from movies.
Yeah.
Or even just stuff that I didn't really, it looked like this from that movie or whatever. Like weird shit, like mud. Like this is the texture of mud from that movie,
Did you see Poltergeist?
Yeah, but you're actually talking about a scene from Poltergeist 2, I hate to tell you.
Is that Poltergeist 2? I don't know, man. I didn't.
No, but it came out in 86. Poltergeist 2 came out in 86. So, I mean, you were we were babies.
I was 3.
Yeah, so
I must have seen that much later.
You could have seen it at any time when you were a kid. But yeah, that's from the second one, and that is that's an up there scene. That's a fucked up, gnarly scene, dude. I think if you rewatch it, it looks a little tiny bit fake because the Craig T. Nelson head looks a little fake when the worm finally comes back out of it. But
you know what,
man,
Dave,
back then
I haven't been able to bring myself to watch it since.
No, never. Wow,
I saw it the one time when I was a kid, and that's it.
The first one's great, and that fucked me up a little bit. The monsters didn't really scare me. The tree that attacks the boy, and
which is the one where the girl's braces start coming out of her face?
Is that Poltergeist?
Yeah, like the one girl has braces and like the wires start like coming out of her mouth and like tie her up. That might be the second one.
If you would have described that to me, I really would have thought that was a Freddy movie.
Maybe. I don't know. I might be conflating something. This is all stuff I haven't watched since I was a little kid. I haven't watched
because
it
you're traumatized. You're violently traumatized.
It fucked me up.
From your chewing gum brain monster out of Coach's throat.
Precisely.
Okay. I get it, Jack. I get it. Fucking, there's a movie. I mean, these are all things from when we were young, mostly. Stuff that we were probably a little too young to watch, or just stuff that hit us the right way, right? But it's a little different when you're talking about movies from when you're a teenager on up. And it gets harder and harder to freak longtime movie watchers out the older they get.
Right.
But I remember a movie specifically from when we were teenagers that gave me actual nightmares. And it might be the last movie that actually did that. It was Event Horizon.
Oh yeah, you and I saw that together in the theater.
Yeah, like since the internet became what it is, that's become a popular movie to like, But for years and years and years, that was a theatrical flop that no one really knew about except people who knew about it.
And you and I, Dave.
Yeah, we were movie nauts. Yeah, cinema nauts is what we were. Intrepid. No, I mean, it looked fucking cool. It seemed it was a horror space movie.
And we had $8 to spare.
Yeah, and we saw it at I think the Regal in Burlington.
Yep.
And I remember we sat for some reason right next to the goddamn speaker. And that movie is full of jump scares with huge noise swells and all kinds of crazy noises throughout. And I just remember it added to it so much. But the concept of that movie and the visuals that ended up making it into that movie, and it's legendary because apparently there was a lot more that the censors forced him to cut of the the alternate hell dimension.
Yeah.
They left little snippets, like really fast moving little snippets that they quick cut together in the flick, but they had to cut almost all of it, and apparently some of it was really, really fucking intense. There's a mythical work print of the movie floating around supposedly, but I've never come across it, and most people say they haven't. I think it's a myth. But even with what it came out with, at that age, it freaked me out bad. Really bad. I can't even point to what it was specifically either about it.
It was freaky, man. You know what's kind of funny?
What?
Like that movie, like clearly had an effect on you. You said it gave you nightmares.
Yeah.
And we were teenagers. That's not nothing.
Yeah.
Like it's got to be something significant to give you nightmares at that age. But my experience, I had the same viewing experience as you did, but I didn't get that freaked out by it because my sisters saw it, and they were also you know them. They're nuts, and they just like they became obsessed with that movie.
Really?
And so yeah, you remember the part in that movie where they intercept some transmission, and you just they think they're hearing Latin.
Yeah, they are.
They think they're hearing like some. It's saying like "Liberate me," and then it's like "Save me," and they're like, "No, you don't understand. We cleaned it up." They said "Liberate tutte me." Exiferius, which means save yourselves from hell. Save yourselves from hell.
Yeah,
which is supposed to be creepy.
It was to me. I guess it wasn't to the twins.
Well, it wasn't. It it wasn't to me because eventually I wound up with 2 carbon copies of the same person running around just going, liberate tutte mex, if just constantly saying that stupid fucking phrase. And it became such an annoyance that I couldn't be scared by it anymore. I was like, will you stop that, please? Like they'd wake up in the morning and they'd want to get me out of bed so we could like hang out on a weekend or something, and they would do it by like trundling into my room going, like instead of good morning, Tom, they'd come in doing that.
I don't know how the hell you made it through childhood without killing them. Oh my Lord,
because they were a lot of fun.
Funny. That's fucking funny. I remember they would do shit like they would quote stuff from in French, right? They used to be. They didn't know French. They never took French, but they knew entire conversations in French.
No, they didn't.
What were they doing? Was it fake French?
They knew like nursery rhymes and song lyrics. Like the more we get together to get. They knew the words to that in French, but so they would just say it conversationally, so it would sound like they were having a conversation in French. Did I ever tell you what they did to my poor father with that?
Oh, is this the museum story?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good one, though.
You want me to tell it?
Yeah. Go ahead.
So, like, they all day long, my dad had them at the... It was the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York. He took them on some trip to New York to go to the museum.
Now, like, how old are they, roughly?
They're teenagers.
Okay.
Like sophomores in high school, maybe. Sophomores or juniors. And the whole day, they're following my dad around, and they're just like, just like pretending to speak French to each other. But it's just like bullshit. They're just like saying the Hail Mary to each other, or like our Father, or Mary Had a Little Lamb in French.
Yeah.
And so they did this to him all day long. So like he's like, God, I gotta get away from these 2. He leaves the room. He goes to another exhibit and he's looking at a painting that I think, like, I forget what the painting was, but he was like, oh, my dad's he's an oil painter.
Yeah.
He's in his element at the museum. He's trying to enjoy a fucking painting. And then all of a sudden from behind him, he hears fucking French. So he spins around while saying, will you shut the fuck up? Because he's had enough. And by the time he turns around, he realizes that it's not my sisters behind him now. It's 2 little old French women trying to have a conversation in French while some big fucking scary American from New Jersey is wheeling around on them and telling them to shut the fuck up.
He just barked at a couple little old tourists.
Yeah. So then he clapped his hand over his mouth and ran out of the room. And then he just like ran away to get away from these 2 before they go like call security. And then he runs into my sisters. He sees them fight. He's like, you know what you just fucking made me do? So we're gonna get kicked out of here now.
When they weren't even there. That's fucking good.
Yeah.
That's good.
They did it so constantly. They forced him to, just verbally abuse 2 poor French tourists.
The way they hammered at shit, I could see how they ruined Event Horizon in terms of fear for you.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I don't know. I can't even pinpoint what it was at this point either, dude. It's essentially in structure, the thing is a haunted house movie, but in a spaceship. But whatever it was, maybe it was the self-harm, like him clawing out his own eyes. I think that freaked me out pretty good.
That was pretty gross. And then there was that scene where the guy has to like float through the vacuum.
Fuck. Yeah.
From one like exit to another.
Yeah, that's Lawrence Fishburne does that because that guy shoots himself out of the airlock, and then Lawrence Fishburne shoots out the thing and pushes him back in.
He's in a suit, yeah, and like they're trying to tell him like you're finding out what happens to a human body in vacuum, and it's gruesome.
Yeah, apparently it doesn't happen quite that way.
No, but like at the time,
it goes much slower. It goes much slower, and you would probably suffocate before body parts started swelling and expanding, because your circulatory system. I just looked this up because I watched for all mankind. And there was a episode where they're out on the surface of the moon without suits, and apparently your circulatory system has it's enclosed, so it's pressurized essentially, so it takes a little while for your blood to boil off in zero in vacuum, but it ain't a good way to go. But yeah, that freaked me out at the time. There was no Google to look it up, and I just assumed, that's fucking, all his shit's ruptured, but he lives. That's the worst part.
He does.
That dude lives.
And
Yeah, that scene in the airlock when because he snaps out of his fugue right at the end as the airlock's beeping and he can't stop it from opening, and he comes back to himself right before he gets spit out into space. I think that was the worst fucking part. All the hallucinations are really scary, and the flashes of the hell dimension. Just that, I think that's what it is that concept is very creepy.
Yeah,
A lot of people like to think of this now that it's been around for so long. They like to think of it as an unofficial Hellraiser sequel.
It does kind of have that flavor to it, doesn't it?
It does. Like more visceral and higher budget and better looking, of course, but it has that flavor. And yeah, Sam Neill covered in blood, having ripped out his own eyes. Yeah, that's got some Hellraiser vibes, some Cenobite type of shit going on. I'll buy it. None of the Hellraiser movies freaked me out like that one, though. Goddamn. So fucking Requiem for a Dream was a movie.
Oh, man. That's the most ham-handed segue into a nightmare fuel movie I've ever heard.
Hey, it was another one that happened when we were teenagers that
scarring. Speaking of movies that scarred you while being an adult that is supposed to be able to parse this shit out and handle it. And that one just battered down all your defenses against such shit, and that was tough to watch.
If you actually watch it, from beginning to end, it's the pace, I think, that's most unnerving. It's just unrelenting, increasingly horrific shit that it exposes you to. And there's no redemption at all at the end. It's such a just demented downer flick. It's great. I have vivid memories of watching that with people.
Who'd you see it with?
I saw it with our friends. I'll bleep it out later, but Steve and Beth.
Okay.
At her house in that Richie Rich development she lived in. And John was there too. Because I remember because he kept complaining because he was sunburnt and sitting shirtless on her leather couch, and it kept sticking to him.
Of course he was.
I know, and she kept giving him this look like he's so gross. And then, after a nice day in the sun, frolicking in the pool and whatnot, we decided to go in the house and watch fucking Requiem for a Dream at 2:00 on a Saturday or whatever the fuck. While we eat pizza.
Why would you do that?
I don't know, man. I guess enough of us hadn't seen it yet, and they wanted to show off with their edgy movie. But it was a downer. It ruined the day for sure.
It ruined the day. You want to hear something funny? I saw that movie with someone else. You and I didn't watch that together.
No,
I watched that with Kevin.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
and
okay.
as much as it was a fucked up movie, and we both kind of recoiled in horror at what we were seeing. You know him, and you know how he'll get a hold of a joke or a phrase, something that winds up being a catchphrase.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And then he'll repeat it constantly,
ad nauseum.
But just he knows how to do it. Just on the verge of not doing it to death, where you think, man, he does that a lot. But you won't go as far as saying...
Unless you have the two of you in the backseat of a moving vehicle and you're driving, then no, he doesn't know when to stop. Or him and anybody else. Him and Ken. I want to strangle the two of them when they're together too, and they have nothing better to do than chirp at each other.
He takes it just to the point where you're about to say he does it too much. Well, there's the part at the end when that awful montage of like everyone having been assigned their fate, right? You got the one guy doing the prison laundry because he's been arrested for drug possession. You have Jared Leto getting his arm amputated because of he's been like shot drugs into
slamming too much shit
into an infected vein or something crazy. You have the mom who's like being committed to a psych ward. And then you have, is that Jennifer Connelly?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You have Jennifer.
Ass.
Yes. Kevin somehow.
He made a joke out of ass to ass.
Well, like anytime we did anything, like I think we were watching like the Wolverine movie, like X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Oh.
And like, yeah, terrible, right? So then like there's like in the very beginning, like Hugh Jackman and Liev Schreiber, they're like in a fight, and then Hugh Jackman goes, "Okay, back to back," and then Kevin just right on cue, ass to ass.
And you remembered that, didn't you?
Ass to ass, and then like somehow he found a way to apply that to whatever we were doing. It was there. Like, it really wasn't forcing it. Just there was always something that just prompted him to go ass to ass.
See, that's why if we had ever gone to war, you want Kevin with you, because he'd be able to make just light enough of even the most horrible situations and just take the edge off a little bit, you know?
I'll agree with that.
Yeah, he could make like a joke about dead babies and stuff, you know, I think. Probably.
And you would never hold it against him.
I know for a fact he could. I've watched a lot of war movies with that dude, and yeah, he can make a joke out of almost anything. But yeah, the tone is always somehow just funny enough. I guess maybe he's kind of a monster.
I love that guy.
I love it. Requiem for ass to ass, ass to ass, everybody, ass to ass. Well, I'm going to go back a little bit to our childhood to
do it.
An unassuming movie that had a concept that was very damaging to a young child. Did you ever hear of A Christmas Toy?
A Christmas Toy?
Yeah.
No. Tell me everything.
Tell me everything, huh? It was a TV special, really. A Jim Henson thing. It was called The Christmas Toy, and it aired in 1986 on TV movie. And it obviously Christmas special, right? Had Kermit the Frog dressed as Santa doing the intro, leading it in, and it was basically a proto Toy Story. The concept was that whenever the kids left the playroom in their house, and you never saw the kids, like parents, you only saw their feet. It was like a Muppet Babies kind of deal. Whenever the kids left the playroom and turned the lights off, the toys came to life and had personalities and like a whole little society in the playroom. And this was a pretty well-off fucking house. They lived in a really, really nice house. So they had like a whole dedicated room just for fucking toys. So that's not horrifying, except like that, you know, for many, many years, I just assumed that that's what happened to all of my action figures and my stuffed animals and shit, that when I left the room, they had a whole little society and dated each other and just sold each other goods and services.
Yeah, sure.
But in this movie, if a toy was caught by an adult not in the position in which it was left, or like say out in the hallway or something, God forbid, outside of the playroom, then that toy was frozen forever. Essentially, it was struck dead and just became a toy with no animus. and they stacked these dead toys like cordwood over like on the side of the playroom. And that's just part of this reality that they spun in this fucking stuffed animal Muppet Christmas story. And one of the characters gets seen and gets frozen. They bring him back through the power of song at the end.
What?
Yes, they all get together and sing because the main characters find the Christmas spirit or some bullshit. And by singing, I think all of the dead toys come back to life.
Ah, what a cop-out.
But, A, it didn't matter. The precedent was set. That was the rules. All right?
Right.
And that's some heavy shit to lay on a 4-year-old, man.
Yeah, I could see that.
And that was another one. My dad taped it off TV, and I watched it like every year as a little kid at Christmas.
It sounds like your dad's home videotape collection ruined you.
That fucking VCR, that giant VCR is what did it. And his just willingness to record off the fucking jailbroken cable box we had. Christmas toy, everyone.
Christmas toy.
It's
Yo. You want to hear something? Like, I don't know how many people this probably effed up a lot of people when they saw it, but this had another layer for me because of something my sister did after we watched it. Do you remember?
I think your sisters fucked you up.
Yeah,
what did I think it was?
Yeah, they did.
Okay, all right. What
That's
do I
fine.
remember?
I'm sure I returned the favor. Did you ever watch The Day After?
Oh, fuck yeah, dude! They made us watch that in school, man. Yeah.
What year did that come out? It was in the 80s. We were kids.
Yeah, it was on TV. It was a big deal. I think it had some crazy amount of people watched it when it aired.
Yeah, it was huge.
So everyone knows. All right, this actually came out. That was the year we were born, 1983. The Day After. Now, this is not The Day After Tomorrow, that Jake Gyllenhaal movie. This is The Day
different.
After. It's about a small town in the aftermath of a nuclear war between the U.S. and the Soviets, and in vivid detail, and it was something that hadn't really been done before during the Cold War. It was really just stark and realistic and damaging. If you saw it young, there's parts of it that are kind of hokey now, but not that hokey. When did you see it? Did you because obviously you didn't see it when it aired because you were a fetus.
I don't know what the circumstances were, but I saw it when I was a kid. I was young.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I was maybe 7 or 8, but maybe they re-aired it or something.
I'm sure they did over the years.
I can't imagine my parents went out and bought that movie or taped it, but they aired it, right? And it deals with nuclear war. And that's scary enough. You see the bombs going off, and they show you what the result of nuclear fallout would be, and people getting radiation sickness. And
Steve Guttenberg's in that, and he's real young.
Yeah.
Loses all his hair.
Yeah, so the day before, a day or two before that, my parents put that on for us or let us watch that. My mom cut my sister's hair.
Uh-oh.
And so that happened. My mom cut my sister's hair in the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
And so we watched it. And then later that night, I'm upstairs and just I'm in the hallway and I just hear this quiet crying. I was like, what is that sound? Someone's crying. I go into my sister's room to see why she's crying. I was like, are you okay? And then my sister Jenny just goes, look, and she just reaches up onto her head and pulls a handful of a clump of hair away from her scalp. And I just I see that and I'm like, oh my God, Mom! Mom! And I run downstairs, and I can barely, the words come tumbling out of my mouth. Like, I can barely get it out. Jenny, her hair is falling. It's just like barely English. And then my parents hear this, and before they're able to get upstairs to see what the problem is, they just hear coming out of my sister's room. She had gone into the trash can and collected the hair that my mom had cut, and just was waited for the right moment for me to, like, you know, hear her like crying and come in, and then pretended to pull just like gobs of hair.
That's malicious.
Away from her scalp.
Premeditated, planned. Supplies were rounded up. Opportunities were seized to freak you out.
Yep. And it did. It freaked me out. And like,
and then you saw that a couple days later with people's hair falling out and boils all over their shit.
Well, no, yeah, I saw that movie, right? We watched that movie, and that's what gave her the idea to pretend to pull the hair away from her head.
That's fucking gnarly, Jenny.
Yeah,
that's gnarly.
You almost, it's gnarly. Almost like a little impressive.
I'm impressed. I've tortured you a lot, so I'm really impressed. That's excellent. Good work.
That was so gnarly, you know, and like, you know, I don't know how much trouble she got in. I scored some brownie points as a brother, you know, for like my immediate concern and my like springing into action to go do the only thing I knew to do at the time, which was get mom and dad, you know, tell mom and dad, you know. But yeah, it was pretty fucked up.
Yeah, speaking of,
I almost have to respect it.
I respect it. Kudos.
Yeah, man. And she got me.
It stuck. It scarred you a little, and that's important. That's what's important. Fucking, how about the nuclear explosion scene from Terminator 2?
That was gnarly.
That messed me up pretty good. Yeah, there were certain things that I remember. There were phases where I became afraid of real world things because of stuff I saw. Like there was an era there where I just kept seeing nuclear shit, and I got obsessed with nuclear war and read all about it, and nuclear winter and all that shit.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
as one does.
Yeah, and then I remember the Holocaust and all that. That was another phase, something I was terrified of and couldn't stop reading about because, you know, when we were kids, the Schindler's List came out, and Life is Beautiful, and I mean, tangentially Saving all kinds of World War II shit too, and you couldn't get away from it. Like, it seemed like it was I don't know. You learned about it in school. They opened the Holocaust Museum, and yay, you know, it's I guess it's what it's supposed to do, though, right? That's the point of making movies about it and about horrible things. So you learn about it and hopefully don't do it again.
Yeah. I don't know where we got this idea from. My wife and I were like looking for a movie to watch. You know what? We rented it. Remember Redbox?
Yeah, sure. I think it's still around.
I mean, they're still around. Yeah. We were like looking for movies to rent at the Redbox, and then we see this movie. Like, oh, I heard this was good. Someone told me about this. It was good. It's $1. We'll rent it. That movie happened to be The Boy in the Striped Pajamas.
Oh my God, so fucking depressing.
Yeah, well, like, did you saw it? Did you know what it was before you watched it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't. I just knew that it was a movie that had come highly recommended. People loved it. We watched it, and we watched The Boy in the Striped Pajamas. And by the end, it's like, why on earth would we do this to ourselves? I mean, like, sure, it's a great movie, but like I basically paid $1 to just fucking, you know, be sad.
Yeah.
For the rest of the night.
Yeah, I saw The Zone of Interest recently.
Brutal.
And that was really interesting.
Was that? Well, I mean, I was about to ask, was that any good? It just won an Oscar. I imagine it's good.
Yeah, it's understated, but that's what makes it horrifying. It illustrates the banality of evil, the whole thing, like just in a new way. Nothing's more horrifying than going to the Holocaust Museum, though, in D.C. That's a rough experience.
Never been there.
I yelled at children for the first time in my adult life in that
Really?
museum. Yeah. Like legit old man yelled at children.
What were they doing?
We were in the room where they have the actual box cars.
Oh, God.
And they were just like frolicking and talking, and they were not being reverent, in my opinion. And they were not understanding the gravity of what they were looking at. So I barked at a couple of them, and they all shut up.
What'd you say?
I don't know. You'd have to ask my wife. I think I said something about have some
Show some respect.
Yeah, have some damn respect. I think I said, shut your mouths, something like that. They pissed me off, man. It's an emotional experience going through that place if you can think, I guess.
Yeah, if you're like aware of what happened.
Yeah, and like I said, we grew up with movies about it, so I went on this spate of reading all kinds. There's so much material, but even back then at the old county library, there was a lot to read. So, and plus, old Stephen King with fucking Apt Pupil.
I remember that.
Because that's in the collection, different seasons with The Body, which became Stand By Me, and Shawshank Redemption is also in that book. There's 4 stories. It's Apt Pupil, Shawshank, and The Body, and then a 4th one that is kind of Lovecraftian a little bit. I forget what it's called. It's not that good, but it's fun. But it's the only one that they couldn't make into a movie, but the other 3 were some of the best adaptations of anything he ever wrote. But yeah, that's an underrated, I think, King story. And the novella ends on such a horrifying down note that the movie just didn't have the balls to do, which is a shame, because it really, I think the ending of the movie softens the whole thing a little bit with Todd living and everything carrying on kind of hunky-dory with the secret intact, and that's not how it was intended to be. So still, it's a good one, and that can eat at you.
Yeah, I saw that movie.
Apt Pupil?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good acting, great story. Interesting. Because that was the other thing, too, when we were kids. There was always, not always, but there was a lot of content about Nazi hunters and hunting, Nazis in hiding. Because it was, in the 80s, it was still possible. They were still close enough to World War II that they could be, in their 60s or whatever, just trundling about in society. I remember the Boys from Brazil, fucking Marathon Man. Did you ever see that? That's a great one with Dustin Hoffman and Laurence Olivier. That's a really cool movie from the 70s.
I never saw that.
That's a good one, man. It's about diamonds and a Nazi in hiding who has to go into New York, and this dude who just gets swept up in all of it. It's really neat. If you ever get a chance, it's one of Dustin Hoffman's early, really great fucking movies. And there's a lot of classic running scenes in Central Park that you've probably seen.
Scenes?
Yeah, jogging scenes around the lake.
Yogging?
Yogging is soft J. Have you, one last one, I have to bring it up because this was one I missed, apparently, when we were younger. I didn't see it until I was an old 30-something man. Jacob's Ladder.
I've never seen Jacob's Ladder.
You never seen it with Tim Robbins. Apparently it was remade in the teens, I think, somewhere. Don't, under no circumstances, watch that. It's awful. I watched the first hour or so, and it was just so fucking bad. But the original, with Timothy Robbins, right? Tim Robbins? Yeah, Tim Robbins.
Is it on the super secret server?
I think so. I'm not sure.
Check it out. I've heard of it, and I've wanted to watch it. I just haven't had a chance.
I think why it hit me so hard was I have trouble sleeping a lot, and I will watch movies when I can't sleep, and usually the shittier the movie, the better, because just I'm so utterly disinterested. I just give up and I go to sleep.
You should watch The Room every night.
Yeah, it's violent, murderous dreams, no good. No rest, no rest with that. So I try to find like shitty horror movies and I put them on. So I find this movie. I'm like, Tim Robbins, never fucking heard of it. He's probably really young. It's probably just garbage, right? Dude, 2 a.m, couldn't sleep, watched the whole thing, eyes peeled, and then the hammer at the end, which I won't ruin for you. And I read later that a lot of people they had trouble sussing out what the ending meant and found it confusing and whatnot. Somehow, sleep deprived me at 3 a.m. It hit me like an arrow in the forehead, and I couldn't think about anything else for days. Like, I went and bought it after that, and like I watched it I don't know how many times.
Wow.
Made my wife watch it with me. It blew her fucking mind too. I made her watch it before I was tempted to tell her anything about it, so that she could go in fresh. She had never seen it. And like she got it too immediately and took it the same way I did, the ending. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it was because getting closer to midlife, you think about death differently, and it hit me right. Like we said, stuff just hit you right when you were a kid for whatever reason and stuck. Something about the reality of the story in this stuck really, really hard and freaked me out for a good while.
That'll do it.
So I don't know. It's slow. The pacing is very slow, and you're going to be a little confused at times. But it's one of those movies that you definitely, if you like it and you get it, you want to watch it twice because you want to go back and be like, all right, now that I know, I want to see it all again.
When you know, you know.
When you know, you know. All right, Jacob's Ladder.
I'll check it out.
For your
good.
deep list.
Yeah.
I'm not
The
going to
backlog.
Yeah, this is different than the laundry list. This is stuff that you just have to listen. I'm not going to spend an episode trying to convince you to watch that movie because you should. You should.
Done deal.
Yay! So we have our scars. We have our burdens from the movies we've seen.
The list of scars goes on and on and on and on.
I mean, there's a million moments and little just single scenes that will never leave your psyche, that certain things in life will always remind you of that moment, that fake moment, that faux reality. That and it's never just what's in the movie. It's what's in the movie and coupled with what your imagination does to it.
Yeah.
Whatever stage in life you are when you see it the first time. And then even too, as you get older, movies like songs, they pick up memories associated with them because they're on in the background, or you saw it the morning of something great or terrible happened. And you build those associations too, and they stay. Like you said, some movies, because of that, you avoid them forever, for years and years and years. I had a lot of those from when I was a kid, and then I went on like a quest at some point, in my teens, I think, to watch most of them.
Oh man,
again.
I never went back.
Yeah, and because it dispelled most of it. By the time you're a jaded, cynical teenager, when you rewatch the stuff that scared you as a kid, most of the time you were like, why the fuck did I buy into that so hard? And it makes it a little better. I thought anyway, but that was me. I lived in my head too much, so it was necessary.
It's funny. I'm a little bit the opposite. When something really messed me up, and I'd almost prefer to just keep it on this pedestal in my head. Is like, oh, I saw that and it was crazy. It would almost be like a kind of a disappointment to me to go back to it and realize that it wasn't as crazy as I thought it was. If that
I can
makes
understand
sense.
that. I can understand that for sure. Yeah, the things that really bothered me, for some reason, I wanted to figure them out eventually. Like there was definitely a time where I just avoided them like the plague, almost with like a religious, because, you know, growing up Catholic too, you're a very superstitious person.
Oh, yeah.
There's all kinds of hidden dangers and weird shit just around the corner. So that was part of it. But yeah, once I started pushing that aside, I kind of re-examined a lot of things I thought I was afraid of. Plus, I was like a gothy teenager, you know? Like, I couldn't be afraid of shit. Not shit like that, you know? I had to wallow in it, man. Wallow. But hey, you know, that's all part of it. That's why movies are magic. And I think, again, it's particular to our generation because we weren't only exposed to horror movies in a movie theater with a whole bunch of other people, you know? You could have your first exposure to a damaging movie all by yourself.
Alone in a dark
room with a glowing TV. Or with a sibling who will needle you for the rest of your life about what scared you. So that's particular to our generation and generations after, man. I don't know. I think that made us a little more fucked up in some ways, huh?
Yeah, you could say that.
Badge of pride. Pride. Awesome. All right, so cuddle up, go watch Arachnophobia.
Or no, don't do it. Don't do it.
With a nice pair of slippers and some popcorn and something itchy behind your knee.
Yeah, and a football helmet.
Yeah, spiders, man. Spiders.
Oh.
Anaconda. That was a good one.
Was it?
Oh, no. Ice Cube and John Voight. It's a great film. Great film. All right, man. That was pretty good.
Yeah.
Did we miss anything that you wanted to...
We missed a ton.
There was a lot on that giant list, man.
We missed a ton, but like I feel like you hit the heavy hitters.
I think we got almost all the highlighted ones.
Yeah.
Oh, we didn't talk about Fuzz Bucket.
I mean, like, but still, like, it's Fuzz Bucket, man. Like, no one who's listening to this is going to have seen Fuzz Bucket.
Hold on, I gotta go pee. But I think I want you to talk about Fuzz Bucket.
You okay?
We gotta talk about Fuzz Bucket. I'll be right back.
All right. I'll wait. Well, hey there, everybody. Welcome to WOMB, The Womb, where we get to enjoy the dulcet tones of Dave taking a pee in the night. Don't touch that dial. We'll be here all night long. We'll be taking callers for the rest of the night. If you're feeling lonely, just want someone to talk to, call in. We're here for you. Spill those thoughts just like Dave is spilling his bladder right now into that bowl. And then he's going to flush it down along with everybody else. Hey, man.
Oh my God.
I can't believe we're going back in for Fuzz Bucket.
Going back in for Fuzz Bucket. All right, man. So when we were coming up with the idea for this episode, you you dropped one on me I had never heard of. You gotta.
Yeah.
I need to learn about Fuzz Bucket.
Oh God.
What the fuck is Fuzz Bucket, man?
Fuzz Bucket. Number one, What does fuzz bucket even mean?
I don't know. You tell me. I'd never heard of this shit before. You did this to me.
Like it was some movie. I'm pretty sure it was a Disney movie. Like I think it was. It either aired on the Disney Channel or was made by Disney. But like it was. I remember my parents got a hold of it and they put it on for us when we were kids because it was a kids movie. It was aimed squarely at children, and it was this movie called Fuzz Bucket. And in it, there was this young boy who, I think he had an invisible friend that was named Fuzzbucket. And to all the adults in his life, they're like, "Oh, you have an imaginary friend." And he was like, "No, he's not imaginary. He's just invisible." Right?
Hey,
well,
you were right. You were right. This is from
did you look it up?
Yeah, I found it. It's not on IMDb, funny enough. 1986. It's a made-for-TV movie, and it was indeed produced by the Samuel Goldwyn Company in association with Walt Disney TV.
Oh, God. Walt Disney, what have you done?
Right?
Good Lord. So, yeah, this boy has this invisible friend that the adults just write off as imaginary. And through some, I don't remember if he found the recipe in a book or if it was given to him, but he comes across like the instructions to make some sort of potion that will make an invisible friend or something that's invisible will render it visible to the world. And so he mixes this stuff up. I remember it being like bright blue. It was in like a peanut butter jar. And then you see like this, he gives it to Fuzzbucket, and you see like the peanut butter jar float up in the air, and you hear like, look, as he drinks it down, and you can see it like kind of going down into his stomach. And as it starts to take effect, the real Fuzzbucket begins to materialize, and you see it for the first time. And this is what I think you said, 1986. This is the land of practical effects. There are no cutesy computer-generated characters. I mean, like, all you got is makeup. And what appears on the screen is like this. I remember my sisters and I were just like, oh, God, what is that? It's like this weird little rat person.
With oh my God, I'm looking at it now.
Crazy squished rat face and a tail and like hair, and it was terrifying.
Yeah, it looks like they put a little person.
Supposed to be.
They put a little person in a suit, and it's this exactly what you said. Like the whole body is hairy, and then it's got a hairless rat face without a nose. It's got the snout but no nose, and it's all white, like bald. It's fucking freaky looking, man. I don't like it. I don't like it. Yeah, it's
yeah. Fuzzbucket. Yeah, I think the shtick of the movie was like Fuzzbucket was a troublemaker. He would go around and like knock stuff over and break stuff, and then the parents would be like, Billy, why did you break this? He's like, it wasn't me, Dad. It was Fuzzbucket. And they're like, who's Fuzzbucket? He's my invisible friend. Like, okay, don't lie to me. That was the whole shtick. And then if that wasn't like creepy enough, I think like at some point, like at the end of the movie, they make more of the potion stuff, and you find out there's like way more of these things. There's like 9 of them, and they all drink it, and they all become visible. And there's like just 9 rat people standing around at the end of the movie, and they're like mean.
Oh shit!
And the kid's friends with Fuzzbucket, and just like, again, like my sisters used to do this. They would just quote this. The kid goes like, "Oh, I love you, Fuzzbucket," and he leans down and he kisses Fuzzbucket on the top of the head, and then you hear the other 9 of them just go, "Ew!" They're like gross. Like you got a kiss from the yucky human, and the movie ends.
I'm really sorry that you were exposed to this. And just to illustrate what we're talking about here, this thing that you're talking about is season 30, episode 15 of The Magical World of Disney.
What?
So, like,
It wasn't a made-for-TV movie?
It was, but it was part of, the magical
like
world of
anthology.
Disney. It was like that series of TV movies they made for years and years and years. So this is like a little tiny corner of something that was never meant to be seen more than once on TV, really, that just became part of your entire upbringing.
Yo, my parents taped it. That's
exactly
what it was.
You see?
They taped it, and so it was probably meant to be seen the one time, and then you'd forget about it. But like for some reason, it was just on I think my sisters used to put it on constantly because they thought the last scene was fucking hilarious. Where he's like, "I love you, Fuzzbucket," and kisses it, and then the rest of them just go.
It's your Christmas toy. It's your Christmas toy.
Yeah. Well, like, I hated it. But for some reason, it was on constantly.
It makes me think of, and also, again, this is tied to your friggin' sisters because I know they're huge fans of Tales from the Crypt, the HBO show, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. There was something that lived in my brain from childhood that I didn't know what it was from. And then at some point when the internet was up and running, it occurred to me to look. And all I remembered was that it took place in the desert and a guy was handcuffed to a dead cop. And he used the cop's badge and a piece of wood to make like an axe and went to go chop off the cop's hand, and he ended up cutting his own wrist. Right? That's all I remember. And apparently that damaged me irreparably as a kid. And then I find out it was a piece of a Tales from the Crypt episode. And that is indeed what happened. It was a bank robber who was fleeing, and this cop caught up to him and handcuffed him to himself, and then he killed him and got stranded out in the desert, dragging around this dead cop with no key. And what I didn't realize was there was a vulture in the episode stalking him the whole time and started to eat his face while he was still alive.
Gruesome.
Yeah, because when he chopped the hand and he misses and hits his own wrist, he falls off a cliff and he's paralyzed, and vulture starts eating his fucking face. It's good stuff for a kid on a Sunday afternoon.
And not knowing what it was, you reached out to my sisters.
I should have.
No, I think you did.
Did I? Is that how I found out the first time?
Yeah, you did. You reached out to my sisters, and then they're like, "Oh yeah, season this, episode that," and they knew the name of the episode because they're insane like that.
I went back and watched it, and it was almost exactly how I remembered it too, which was fucked up. Like I didn't reverse anything. No, it played out just like that. Damaging.
Yeah, man, it sticks with you.